for the Masters in Sport and Performance Psychology program here at Commonwealth U Lock Haven. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. There's a lot of other things you could be doing right now, but you're choosing to spend that time with us. And I think this will be a good investment of your time as you're considering or continuing your education. We have a great program for you tonight where Dr. Ingram, who will introduce herself here in just a minute, will take us behind the scenes and help you preview your experience in the program. This is a very unique program that certainly has a lot to offer. My name is Tom Kresh. I'm our Director of Graduate Admissions. I'll be hosting the event tonight. It should take probably around 35 minutes. And then afterwards, we will open it up to a Q&A. This event is being recorded and will be posted on the university YouTube channel and the Masters in Sport and Performance Psychology program website if you're looking to do some additional views. So whether you're watching live or watching the recording, again, thank you for joining us. Dr. Ingram, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. I'm Yvette Ingram, and for some of you that were on a little early, you got to hear this, but I'm just going to say it again. I am a 19-something graduate from Lock Haven. I don't want to go too detailed there, but I did my undergrad here in health and physical education and athletic training, and then went to Penn State for my master's degree in health ed, and landed in Philadelphia at Temple University for my PhD in sport and exercise psychology. So I am an athletic trainer by trade. That's kind of how I got into the sports psych world. And that was really like the driving force of, I was treating the physical person and realizing that I was only half treating people, that there is an entire mental side of it that a number of years ago when I was in school, we didn't really talk about a whole lot. So it was always like, oh, they're an athlete, so they're healthy. And when I came back and went to work at the collegiate level, I realized that could be further from the truth. So started pursuing a PhD in sport and exercise psychology, and here I am.
Yeah, and that's so interesting too, because you're right. I mean, you really, when you're doing the physical aspect, that's part of it, right? So much of athletics is the psychological, the mental part of it, and you would want someone that can help you take care of that aspect of your athletic career in the same way that you would want someone that could help you take care of the physical part too. They're equally important. And that's where I started off by saying, like, this is a unique program. Dr. Ingram and her faculty really are on the cutting edge of this, and there's not a ton of programs that are doing this right now. So I think that's one of the things that that is important, is this is a program that more or less kind of puts us on the map because of its success and its uniqueness. So Dr. Ingram, I'll turn it over to you so you can start the presentation.
Sounds good. All right. So if you do have questions as you go, it sounds like, Tom, you want them to hold them till the end, and then we'll do the Q&A at the end instead of as we go through it, correct?
Yeah, that might be better. Yes, if you don't mind. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So let's get started here. So why a master's in sport and performance psychology? I probably don't have to tell you this, because if you're sitting in on this presentation, you already have your own ideas of why. But I will say that in addition to what I just said about treating half of the person from an athletic perspective, it's also from a coach's perspective. It's also from a teammate's perspective. It's also from your perspective as an athlete. So our program is pretty varied, and we have people from all different kinds of backgrounds. And so we have got people that have a degree in finance that was a college athlete, whether a Division I, II, or III, didn't matter. But what they realize is, you know what, finance isn't the world for me, even though did me well when I was in college and I got a degree out of it. But I really want to kind of dig into the mind of those who are in athletics. A lot of people start out in athletics that way. You graduate from college and you decide that, hey, I want to be a coach. You have a degree, and you have a degree in something maybe completely different than coaching, but you decide that that's what you want to do. And so then you kind of find yourself, all right, maybe I'm not as prepared for this as I want to be. So that would be a perfect reason of why a master's in sports psych, because you got into a field that you weren't expecting to get into, but you did. And now you're understanding that you're only scratching the surface with the knowledge that you have. And I think that's key, because athletes, they emanate their coaches in many ways. So if their coach had a particular technique, then they have a particular technique. And so this just kind of shows you multiple different ways of handling the person and the mental pressures I'll use, and sometimes struggles that they will go throughout their athletic career. But that's like one perspective of it. I'm sure there's people sitting here listening to this or watching this at some point that don't have an athletic background, but have a counseling background. And they see a lot of athletes coming into their offices. And that's another great reason to get a master's in sports psychology, because it will further help you understand what motivates those individuals that are coming in and day out into your office. Sorry, got a little bit of a sore throat, so I apologize.
Yeah, and actually, no, that's great. And Dr. Ingram, you make a good point there, where you don't necessarily have to have been a former athlete to get into this field. You know, I mean, there's like seems to be like probably two on ramps. There's people who are former athletes, have an interest in helping to support athletes. Then there's people who maybe have a counseling or a psych background who are interested in helping, you know, counseling and providing support to or to athletes in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, and anybody really in the athletic world, really, because you're dealing with athletes. If you're in the athletic world or want to be in that world, it's a day in and day out. And a lot of people see them, especially people that watch them on TV, see them as machines, right? And so they don't understand all of the pressures. I mean, think about, probably shouldn't say this, but think about when Simone Biles was having her twisties, as she called them. And the media was like, I can't believe she's pulling out. That's letting her team down. That's this, and they were going like crazy because she was doing something that was for her own mental health and her own safety. And millions of people around the world just did not understand that. So that is one of the reasons why, to answer this question again, why a master's in sports and performance psychology is because you understand that why. So our mission at Lock Haven, it's pretty simple. We want to try to give our students the best education that we possibly can give them based on the latest and the most current data and research that's out there. We understand that an athlete is more than just an athlete, and there are multiple factors that influence their performance. Sure, it's their strength. Sure, it's their speed. Sure, it's their conditioning, all those physical things. But it's also what's going on in their minds and how they're handling that. And whether it's the stress of the white hot spotlight that is on that particular athlete, or it could be a high school or a middle school athlete who is being stressed because of pressures that are being put on them. Nowadays, with the trend for people to specialize in sport and pick a sport when they're 8, 9, 10 years old and only play that sport, and they have all these travel teams and everything, that's a lot of pressure on the kid, especially if the student or the athlete doesn't love the sport as much as their parents love the sport. And so we work through the lifespan. So you will have an opportunity to learn about that, as well as that traditional high school, college, professional athlete, but then also those people on the other end of that are here for the long haul. Your 55-year-old distance runner who runs 2 or 3 marathons a year. So our mission is to try to give you the most well-rounded education that you can have and allow you to work with anyone who is physically active, no matter what their age is.
Yeah, and as you look at athletics, I mean, sports is such an enormous business. And not only business, it's just an enormous part of our society. So the support of student athletes and professional athletes and amateur athletes, it's a big career field. I mean, there's just a lot of options out there because of how big this is. I mean, you look at, from, preschool all the way through people, again, who are amateur athletes in their 60s. I mean, they're all athletes. And it's probably grown in leaps and bounds. I don't remember this being as prominent 20, 30 years ago, but like, again, there are all these opportunities to compete now. The field has just gotten so big.
It has. And I think athletes like Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods have helped that in many ways for that non-traditional age person, because all the conversations, after Tiger's life imploded with everything that happened personally, everybody's like, he's never going to be the same. He's down the rabbit hole, so to speak. And yet he was very forward about working with his sports psychologist, his performance enhancement specialists.
Mhm.
And Phil has been the same way. I mean, many people on the PGA Tour are very vocal about working with a consultant of some sort from some background,
Yeah.
sports psych related.
Yep, yep. It helps enhance their abilities. Not just about, maybe it's not always about healing something. Sometimes about like harnessing this power
Absolutely.
and to make yourself, to take yourself to the next level too. Yeah, there's so
And
much you can do with
it's
this.
that harness. The word we use is focus.
Yeah,
So it's trying to get the athletes to focus on what it is and block out all that noise that's around them. And that's really hard to do for some people.
yeah, that's a great point.
So our values here, evidence-based. I kind of said based on the latest research last time. So evidence-based. So you will end up reading a lot of current stuff that's out there. Again, this is a relatively new profession. So when I say current stuff that's out there, most of the research that's published has been within the last 20, 10, 20, even 30 years. You can't go back much further than 30 or 40 years and find a whole lot of research in the sports psych world. So right now it's constantly changing. It's a baby that is growing up, and there's so much coming out of the field right now that's very interesting. So you will be diving into that. You will be, depending on the class, you'll be doing some presentations on a topic that you choose, or you'll be working with a fake or mock client, trying to work them through something that they're dealing with. I wouldn't say try, but we are flexible with a non-traditional student. That is one of the things that kind of, I think, sets our program apart, because we have people that are, when I say part-time, I mean like part-time. They take one class a semester, every semester, fall, spring, summer. And then we have people that are full-time, not working, but full-time students who are taking 9 credits, some taking 12 credits at a time if they're not working. I recommend that if you're working and you're trying to do this, start with 2 classes, because it does take time. It's not undergrad. It's not studying the week before the exam and passing it. It is a more intense program than that. And so I think that a good balance is, that we are flexible and we work with you. So you can be full time in the summer if you want to be, part time in the fall. If you're out there and you're a coach, and let's say coming into the spring, you're a baseball coach, well, maybe you want to take 2 classes in the fall and only 1 class in the spring. Or because of your position, you want to take the spring off, but you're going to take a summer class. We are flexible in that, and that we work with you. We also work with all ages. We have some students in our program now that are in an accelerated program. So they're actually juniors and seniors in college that have maintained a strong GPA and an interest in sport and exercise psychology. So they are actually permitted to take a class a semester, their last 4 semesters here. So we have some students in the classes that are 20 and 21. And then on the flip end of that, we have students that are coming back to school that are well established in their career. They could be 40 or 50 years old. So we really do have a whole spread. And I wouldn't say we're heavy on one end or the other. I really think we're pretty diverse the whole way across the board there. So if you're one of those continuing education learners and you're a little nervous about it, I get that, and you're not alone. But we will work with you and help you get through that situation. Emphasis on enhancing the quality of life for clients, coaches, parents, and others. Sometimes, as a consultant, you will be holding clinics for parents and teaching them how to handle their 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 14-year-old prodigy athlete. And that's something that you might be interested in. Some of you might be sitting there thinking that you want to start your own business and you want to be a consultant full time. And so you're going to try to get into the communities and try to do those kind of events so that you can bring in clients as a business. And so again, we're trying to set you up so that you're able to deal with all those different variables that are going on throughout what hopefully will be your career. And then last here but not least is an emphasis on real world learning. And so One of the things that we feel very strongly about is like case studies and giving you things that are actually happening and how would you deal with this person, because we don't want the first time for you to deal with that person is when they're sitting across from you in your office, or you're out on the pitch with them and you're trying to work through things. So we try to give you some real life, real world scenarios that you can kind of work through ahead of time. The program is 100% online, and that does scare some people. I get emails from people all the time. Is there any way we can do this face to face? No, it is 100% online, and we like it that way. And I think if you give it a try, you will as well. We have students that are from multiple different time zones and different countries. And so it would be impossible to do a synchronous class where we have somebody halfway around the world taking a class with somebody in an East Coast time zone and someone in a West Coast time zone. But by doing it asynchronous and delivering it online, it allows those people, when we do partner work, to get in a time where they can get together. Sometimes it's they sit down and they Zoom each other, and that is some technology that you will have access to as a Lock Haven student, that you can have a Zoom account. So that's I think a good thing about the program. It is 30 credits, and so that is 10 classes. But two of those classes, and I'll show you the classes here in a minute. Two of those classes, one's a research methods course, and then the other one is a capstone project. And that capstone project is something that you tailor to your interests with the help of your advisor. So you will be assigned a capstone advisor who may or may not be your academic advisor. And so you work together with them to figure out a topic that's of interest to you. So it could be anything from coaching styles, learning styles. It could be different programs where you're doing like two different groups, where you have a control group and a non-control group, and that experimental group is doing a specific technique. It could be looking at social media and how social media affects people, specifically physically active, and what they do while they're on social media. So that capstone project is really something that we encourage you to be forethought, put some forethought into that, and hopefully use it as like a launching pad to continue your research agenda once you leave the program. I did mention this earlier. We do have classes fall, spring, and summer. And over this summer, we have 2 summer sessions. So that is 2 6-week sessions. And so you could take summer, it would be considered summer 2. So that starts like the middle of May and ends the end of June. And then the summer second session starts the beginning of July and goes until like the end of the first or second week of August. So again, you don't have to take courses over the summer, but that is an option for you if you're busy during the school year. We have some people that are teachers. And so when they're teaching, it's harder for them to take the classes in the fall and the spring. So they want to take more classes in the summer. And again, it's just another example, I think, of how flexible we are. And then I already addressed the full-time and the part-time options here.
Yeah, it seems like one of the strengths of the program is this opportunity for flexibility, for students to have, again, multiple on-ramps into this. This is a great program if this is your first foray into this field, or you've been doing something adjacent or very similar to this and you're trying to enhance your career or get to the next level. Because there's so much flexibility, not only built into the course delivery, but the coursework itself. Like you know, Dr. Ingram, you talked about the research project. Well, if you're already working in the field, you're probably going to do a research project on something that's relevant to the career you're doing or the career you want to get into. Whereas if you're a student who is, coming right from their undergraduate degree in psychology or in communications and your exercise science and going into this field, it's like, now I want to use this to investigate something I'm interested in. There's so much you can do with this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, again, we encourage that, if you're thinking about being a consultant, a full-time consultant, your capstone could potentially be putting together an educational program that you would implement to, not only educational. I had a person do like a business plan. So he did his business plan and his educational program and use it as, I'm going to start a business, and
Mm,
it helped him, and he basically was able to use me as a consultant for free, basically, because I it was part of the class for him.
right.
um, so that's an opportunity. Again, that is something that we really try to tailor to the student. You did mention about the multiple on-ramps, and I said something about it. You said it, I'm going to say it again. Don't worry if you don't have a degree in psychology. Don't worry if you don't have a degree in athletic training. Don't worry if you don't have a degree in exercise science, because we have people from all kinds of backgrounds in the program. And again, it goes back to, sometimes they were an athlete in college. They thought they wanted to be a business person. They thought they wanted to be a communications person. So the degree fit their purpose at the time when they were in school. But now they're out, they're doing it, or they decided before they even started in the career that that really wasn't what they wanted to do. And so now they're switching gears. I personally enjoy that kind of thing in my classes because I like learning from my students, and everybody has a unique perspective. So when you're submitting, and I have people do a partner assignment in every one of my classes. And so I try to pair partners. Well, first off, I give you the option. If you know someone in class, you can pair with somebody you know. But if you don't, then I try to give you a partner that I think is going to have a decent learning style and a task style similar to you. And I like to see how those grow. I'm thinking of one group where the person came from a media background, and when they submitted their presentation, they could be doing that professionally. Like, I'm looking at it and I had no comments as far as the media that they used, because it was just above and beyond all expectations that I could have had. So we encourage you to bring that background in and make it better. you know um, Create your own YouTube videos. If you've got that kind of a media background and you get the sports psych degree, create your own YouTube videos, get a following to come to you for free, and then you start charging them once they like what they see. So, I mean, you can use your other talents in many different ways.
Yeah, and for the students that have a different academic background than something like psychology, right,
Yep.
is it brings perspective. Like, you come with a different perspective that other people might not. You can bring a wide angle lens to some of these things, or a different viewpoint. And that's one of the benefits of the program being online, is you're going to be exposed to a wider variety of backgrounds because there's no geographic boundaries, right? I mean, it could be California to Texas to Pennsylvania to, Lock Haven, right? Any of those locations. So that really works to the advantage of the program and the advantage of the students.
Absolutely. So, along with that, then, because we like diversity here, so we've got a variety of professors. We are a small school where there's only about 3,000 of us at the university, but our professors, we all come from a little bit different backgrounds. So, one of the gentleman that teaches in the program, he comes from a strength and conditioning background and adds a very unique perspective to it. Like I've said already, I spent my years in athletic training, so I come from an athletic training background, and seeing hundreds, if not thousands, of coaches over the years, and watching how coaches behave and how athletes respond to those coaches. And then we have another person who's from a strict psych background. So she was psych, and psych. And so she has a very different perspective on it than all the rest of us. And we have another professor that's coming from a health and physical education background. So we really do have a very unique group of people that teach in the program. And so we try to, you won't have the same one or two professors for all the classes. We'll spread it out. You'll have at least all four of us at least once. And you're only taking 10 classes. So you probably will end up with someone twice, maybe three times, but that's 3 out of 10, and that would be it. So you are getting a very different perspective every time, because of our experiences, because of our backgrounds. And we've all been working in the field for I hate to say it, but decades, to be honest with you. So we all have a lot of experience that we bring to the table. Um, I think the second bullet here is very important, and our courses that we have, they all meet. So if there's some of you out there, I've talked about consulting a couple times. If there's some of you out there that are thinking that you do want to take the certification exam and be a CMPC, we have courses that meet all the different knowledge areas. Now, there are, and I can pull that up here real quick. I think I have it loaded. Oops, maybe I don't. Yeah, here. I'll just pop that in. You see in a list of courses right there?
Yes.
Okay, so we have this, and every student will have access to this as you get it, but it tells you which courses, these are the required courses up top, and I have those, they're on another slide, but then we also map it out so that you can see what knowledge areas it attaches to, so you can see the direct relationship there. Now, there are some courses that don't have knowledge areas, but I think we're actually in the process, we've had some conversations, we may actually be fading some of those out. And so, but your main, your core classes, your 21, 7 of the main courses that you take, 6 of them have knowledge areas attached. So I think that that's a real strength of our program too. And we've had students, because you do have to take the capstone. Part of our guidelines as being a POSHI school is that you have to have a culminating activity. So your culminating activity is one of your 10 classes. So I've had some students, in fact, I have a student right now who is staying an extra semester so that she can get another one of those knowledge areas. And she's taking this counseling course because she doesn't have coursework in knowledge, right, in that knowledge area number 5 right now, but she wants to sit for the CMPC exam. So with that uh, extra course, she will then have the content in all of those areas. So we do have that as an option, and I'm not sure all programs offer that. So I think that's really important. And you can work with your advisor. I could pull that back up, but that's all right. There's some electives that don't have that, but they might sound very interesting to you. And so go for it, and map that out with your advisor. Like, you will be assigned an academic advisor that you can email and contact. And I have had multiple conversations with people, and changing. They come in saying, I want to do the certification, and then they decide that, well, I just got this other job opportunity and this team is not requiring me to get the certification, but I still want the knowledge. So I'm going to finish the degree, but not sit for the exam. Okay, fine. And then I've had the exact opposite, where I have someone coming in saying, well, I'm coaching. I don't really think I want to get this CMPC certification. So I just really want to take the 30 credits and graduate. Okay, no problem. So you're not forced into a box where you have to take the exact same classes that everybody else is taking at the exact same time. It does give you that flexibility to make those decisions. And that's what you're there. That's what your academic advisor's there to have those conversations and talk those type of things out. The third bullet here, there is graduate assistantships available for qualified candidates on campus. And so that is something that if you're interested, most of our students aren't here in Lock Haven. They are working or in other parts of the country or other parts of the world for that matter. But if you are here and you're interested in a grad assistantship, that's something that we could potentially work with you to find someone on campus where you can do that. I know that we've had in the past people who have been grad assistants for a specific team, and helped coach a team while they were working on their master's degrees. So if you're a swimmer or a soccer player or whatever, and you have valuable experience that you think that the coaching staff would be interested in, we can potentially have a meet up, get you in contact with them and see what their thoughts would be about having an assistantship option.
Yeah,
So
and I can speak to that a little bit too.
I
Yes.
was just going to say, do you have anything else to add about that?
Yes. So we have a number of graduate assistantship opportunities. In fact, we do have some GAs that can be done remotely. And for those of you who are wondering, well, like, what is a GA? A grad assistantship is a part-time position where you work for the university. Normally you can work upwards of 20 hours. In return, you would get a tuition waiver for, I think, up to 9 credits. And then you would get a stipend. as well. So it's a great way to help offset the cost of going to graduate school. And honestly, even on top of that, it's a great way to get some practical, like very meaningful experience. All of our grad assistantships, regardless of the department that they are in, you are treated as a professional. I mean, it's not just doing, basic entry level work. Like you're doing, meaningful work. Departments rely on graduate assistants. So it's a great way to get some, really important professional experience. We have GAs in just about every department on campus. I should say on our campuses at Commonwealth U, at Bloomsburg, Lock Haven, Mansfield, and Clearfield. So it gives you a number of options. So if you're living, in one of our hometown locations, like I said, in Bloomsburg, Lock Haven, Mansfield, or Clearfield, that gives you a good variety of options. If you are a student who is remote and is living someplace outside of those areas, we do have some virtual GA positions as well. So there are a number of graduate assistantship opportunities. We normally begin to start posting those normally January. So if you're a student who's thinking about starting in the spring or this upcoming summer, my advice to you is to start to get the application materials ready sooner rather than later, because you do have to apply and have been admitted in order to be considered for a GA.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep, no problem.
So coursework, I kind of already have gone over this before, but the print was a little small. So here it's a little bigger. So you're going to see that you're going to get some coursework in mental health. I'd love to say that all of our athletes are completely mentally healthy, but that is not the case. Just like it's not the case with all human beings. So just like anyone else, athletes struggle with anxiety. They struggle with depression. They struggle with bipolar, or you name it, they are struggling with it. So those people that are coming from a psychology background, you're probably saying, oh great, I'm comfortable with that, I love that content. Those of you that aren't coming from a psych background, don't worry, we're not teaching you to be counselors. We're just giving you some knowledge so you can be aware when you're working and consulting with people and teams that there might be something else going on with this athlete that you might need to refer them on. So because I did have a question about that before, about like, how much am I supposed to be doing this mental health? So it's just more like some background information for you so that you're aware and can refer on. Just like any program that you're probably looking at, we have a foundations course, which is our 510 course, and then our sports psych for performance enhancements are 512. So it's the foundations and then the applied course back to back. I think that we are lucky in the aspect of, with my athletic training background, I teach an injury and recovery course. So I think that's a very unique course, and it's a fall spring offering. And so I love having a diverse group of people in there, and I love having coaches in there because coaches will add a different spin to assignments off them, because I come from the protect the athlete, they're injured, we got to take care of them. And the coach is coming from the, I need to push this person, I need them back on the field, I need this, I need that. So it's really good for us to see both sides of what the athlete, the pull and the yin and the yang, or the pulling that the athlete is experiencing between the medical staff and the coaching staff. And so it's really neat to see that interaction, and for me to learn how and what a coach is thinking, and for a coach to understand more of what's going on in the athlete's mind, because they know that they're struggling with the injury, but they don't necessarily know how they're struggling with the injury. And so I think that's a really good, it's a fun class in my mind. We do have an ethics course, and that's probably one that's pretty consistent across all programs. And then that capstone that I was talking to you about earlier, that you get to do a research project on a topic of your interest. And then I think here's where we look at, and we get some, and these are knowledge area courses as well, or most of them. So a cultural and ethnic diversity course, a lot of programs aren't set up to have that, and counseling skills. So you will learn some basic counseling skills, because you will be one-on-one with athletes, with physically active individuals. So you will learn that the communication styles and how you talk to somebody, and body language, and how important that is. And then another course that's being taught, going to be for the first time this year, is gender and sport. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to look at not only sport from a female perspective, but from a male perspective. And there's some different nuances to that course. Again, it's new. It's going to be offered this summer. So I'm kind of excited to see how that turns out. The last one here, the mentoring experience one, I wanted to bring your attention to. So this is a course that some of our students take and some of our students don't. But if you're thinking about sitting for that certification exam, you have to do 400 hours of field work. And so with that, you need to be shadowing and working with a CMPC. And so Dr. Lally is Patricia Lally, she teaches in our program, and she is a certified performance enhancement consultant. And so she does that class with you, and it's 400 hours, and those hours will count, and she'll sign off on those, count towards your 400 hours for the certification exam. And some people love that idea, and some people are like, I'm already working with a professional team. We already have a CMPC on staff. I don't need to work with Dr. Lally because I have access to one at my workplace. Fine, no problem. You don't need to take that. Just let your advisor know that, and you guys pick a different elective. In this program, if you notice, there were 7 core courses, so each student would be picking 3 off of this list. We do rotate these electives, so they're offered at different times throughout the year. So if there's one that you're looking at and you're like, hey, I really want to take that cultural and ethnic diversity course, you got to let your advisor know that up front so that he or she can say, okay, well, while you're here, you're full time, so you're going to be out in 1 year. You need to keep this space open because it's offered summer session number 2 or something along those lines. So that's kind of a little tricky when you're trying to get in and out in 1 year as a full-time student. You just have to be aware and plan ahead. If you're a part-time student, then you'll probably be here 2 years and maybe 3, depending on how part-time you want to be. And so we have a little bit more flexibility. You could take that the first summer you're here or the second summer you're here. The program is set up for both. So you can do, if you would start in the spring, you could do 9 credits in the spring, 12 credits over the summer, 9 credits in the fall, and graduate in December. Same thing happens if you start in the fall. So it would be 9 in the fall, 9 in the spring, 12 over the summer, or depending on when you start in the summer, because if you don't start till that second summer session, so you're not starting till July, then you would go the following summer 1 session as well. So you can, with planning and taking 9, 9, and 12, graduate in 1 full year. But don't feel pressured to do that. We have students who start that way and end up backing off and going part-time. And there's nothing wrong with that because you're learning about the mental health of your athlete, and we want to make sure you are mentally healthy as well. So if you are anxious about work and you're anxious about classes and everything else that's going on in life, we totally get it. So just let your advisor know that you want to decelerate and you want to go part-time, and we'll work with you to get that done. No pressure. I do think on the application, it says, do you want to go full-time or part-time? I think initially. So answer whatever you're thinking you want to do. But again, understand that that can be changed. That's not locking you into something. Alumni. So we have alumni from all over the place. This program, we've been in 10 to 15 years now that we've been in place. So we've got alumni, a lot of different places all over. I had mentioned already that we have people in other countries. And so we do. And I love that aspect of it because, again, European countries, they grow up with using sports consultants from a beginning, from an early age. And so like in the US, a lot of people don't have that luxury. And so it's really neat to see the perspective of those people that are in the program, because it's not a foreign concept to them. Like some of our athletes in the States, they're like, sport consultant or mental health performance and consultant. I'm not crazy. I don't want to see someone like that. There's nothing wrong with me. Not understanding that it's helping them stay healthy, not that there's something wrong with them. But some of the European countries, they know it. They know it from the time they're 5, 6, 7 years old that they have a sport consultant that they are talking to, and it's making them more focused. It's making them being able to handle the pressures better. So we do have alumni everywhere. I guess I'll leave it at that. Career options, I've kind of already thrown these in here. Talked about that consultant position already. And so you don't have to, be a consultant and work full-time as a consultant, you can do that part-time if you want to. So you can be a coach, you can be an official, you can be a parent, you can be a whatever, you can be an athlete trainer and just do consulting on the side. And so you can use it as a part-time job or a full-time job, depending on what your interests are and what your background is. A lot of athletic departments, have a consultant on staff, if not multiple. I actually am just working with a student right now who is in the program, and they're working at a university where they have 8 consultants on staff. I would love to have that flexibility here at Lock Haven, but the budgets don't allow it. But so don't think that you're going to be like this lone wolf at a place all by yourself, because a lot of schools will have multiples because of the size of their athletic programs. Army centers use performance enhancement specialists, so that might be something that you would see, as well as, hey, and that there's nothing wrong with this. In fact, I applaud coaches saying, I want to be a better coach. I want to know my athlete, not only the X's and O's and the skills that they're doing, but I want to know what's going through his or her mind. I want to be able to help them and make them a better person. And so that, I think, is phenomenal. And I applaud that type of person, because that's just making you a better individual, and athletes will gravitate towards you. And then I had mentioned this before, well, the life coach, but also performance enhancement, like a certified strength and conditioning coach. You're using it to just make yourself more well-rounded individual and understand what that athlete is going through. Yes, you can have them do all the lifts and everything that they need to do, but then you also know, and there's reassurance from the athlete that you care about them more than just a body that's there to participate in a specific sport. Admissions, the admissions process, I think, is pretty easy. There is a link on here, but Tom, could you put that in the chat too, for me, please?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. So it is pretty easy to apply. Again, 3.0 or higher GPA, and I don't care necessarily what background you're coming from, because there's value in all of it. We do ask for a professional goals statement. So what's your outlook? What brought you to this? What's your background? What do you plan on using this degree for? Just so we can get a good idea if you're a good fit for the program. And if you're, and this is when I assign advisors, a lot of times we'll assign advisors based off of what your background is and what your interests are. So if you're very interested in performance and enhancement, I'm going to probably assign you to Dr. Wilt, because that's his background. If you're coming from a psych background, I'll probably assign you to Dr. Lally, because that's her background, so that you're with somebody that knows and has experience with what you're looking at and what you're doing. And then last but not least is 3 letters of recommendation. And don't be worried. You don't have to have professors. If you're one of those continuing ed people that you're looking to go back, don't worry about trying to get a professor as a recommendation that you had 25 years ago. Get somebody that's going to be able to talk about your personality, your qualities, what makes you dedicated, why they think you would be successful in this career. So it could be a clergy, it could be a boss that you're working with, or a coworker that you're working with, or if you're playing on like intramural teams, or you're playing on 50 and over slow pitch softball teams. It could be a teammate that you have, but somebody that can speak about your character and how they see you fitting into this sport world. Anything else to think on that, Tom?
No, so Dr. Ingram, is there, so I know you mentioned kind of some important details about the application process. Is there anything that you're looking for? Like, I know that there's some things that, like people think you have to have a psych degree or an exercise science or health sciences undergrad, and that's not necessarily the case. Is there anything in your mind that's like, oh no, this is what I look for, this would qualify someone as a good applicant? Is there any commonalities there?
I think the biggest commonality is probably I'm looking for someone who's coming from a place of caring.
Okay.
Because you're going to be working with athletes, and some of you will be working with those physically active people when they're at their most vulnerable.
Mhm.
So the fact that you come from a caring background, that you want to see somebody get better, and not just physically better, but mentally better, or
Mhm.
you want to, not that there's something wrong, like you just want to hone in on a skill. So you want them to perform better, not necessarily that they're struggling with something. They're coming to you because they want better. So I want to see that you care, that you're willing to go that extra mile and make them a better, stronger person.
What are for students who have sat through this and are wondering, man, I think this is I'm interested. Like this sounds like something I would like. What are some of the things that might be a good checkpoint to be able to say, oh no, you know what, I do like to do that, therefore this might be a good fit for me? Like, is there any advice you can provide in helping to connect the dots or provide confirmation that they're moving in the right direction? I know that's a tough question to answer.
It is kind of a tough question. The first thing that comes to my mind is that you've got to like people,
Okay.
and you've got to understand sport.
Mhm.
And I mean, not like the X's and O's of the sport, but the
Right.
pressures that go along with the sport.
Mhm.
Because athletes can quickly pick up if you don't understand. And so, if you want to be successful, they have to know that you're coming from that place of caring, and
Mhm.
they have to know that you're trying to get them better. As far as one specific thing, I don't think, um, I don't really think, I can't come up with one specific.
Yeah, it's so like in fact, maybe but you did bring up a good point there. One of the things that you want to do kind of like a self inventory of is, all right, so I like fantasy football, therefore this is a good fit. That's probably not the best way to come to that conclusion. And now it's entirely possible that two things can be true at the same time, where you do like fantasy sports and you also have an interest in this too, but you want to make sure you have an interest in the subject matter. And you talked in depth about the courses, and I would advise that for students who are looking at this, pay really close attention to what you're going to study, because if you're interested in the subjects that you're going to be learning in class, that's a really important indicator that this is something you're going to enjoy doing. But like that's probably the first sign that, like, oh, you know what, that subject looks so fascinating, or I've read about this, or I've taken a couple classes about on this subject, love to learn more. That's a great way to confirm that, no, this is something I want to do as a career.
I would agree with that. Yes, I would agree with that. Because you're going to get to know, whether you're a consultant and somebody's hiring you for 5 hours just to work on some focus or some performance because they've got some distractions going on that they're trying to block out those distractions, or that you're working at an institution, a traditional institution, whether it's a high school, college, or professional team. You're going to get to know your patients, your clients on a very personal level, and it's awesome to see them develop over the years. The one thing that hurts as working at a college is that 4 years and they're gone, or 5 years and they're gone. But I've kept in touch with so many different athletes over the years, and they come back to the university, and you see their children and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the thing it's so fulfilling, because again, it goes back to, you're caring about them, and they remember you because you cared about them. And it doesn't matter if it was they were hurt and you were there to help them, or they were struggling with, they had the drops. They couldn't catch, the wide receiver couldn't catch the ball, right? And so you're working with that wide receiver and getting them to focus on things. Or, it doesn't matter. They just remember you as caring about them. And so you leave an impression in their life, a little footprint in their life. And that's the most fulfilling part of the job, I think, is that, you've had an impact. So contact information, which you probably already have, because I'm sure you've gotten a couple emails from Tom about this, but my contact information is on the screen. You can go to the CU or Lock Haven website. They're intertwined there, but it's easy. It's my first initial last name, and all the addresses are commonwealthu.edu. So feel free to drop me a line and I will get back to you. I will say that tomorrow is the last day of class and next week is finals. So I will try to get back to you as soon as possible, although this is a very crazy, hectic 10 days coming up. But we'll get through it. Grades are due on Tuesday, I think it is, the following Tuesday. So we'll get through it and start another semester again in January. That's how it works.
That's right. Well, great. So, Dr. Ingram, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. And everyone who joined us, again, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to, reach out to Dr. Ingram and I. We work for you, and we're certainly happy to do so. So we look forward to hearing from everybody in the future, and certainly hope everybody has a good night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.